The guy just saw the movie a week before. Not only that, he saw it 3 times that week. He liked it so much, and yet he gave the wrong answer. Imagine, it's the 1950s. You are a contestant on one of the biggest TV game shows in history. You are looking into a television camera, and 50 million people are watching, and you are about to lie through your teeth and take a dive.
Why would you do that?
This is the Sonic Boomers. I'm Pete.
And I'm Maureen.
We're talking about quiz shows and the great TV quiz show scandals. And the one that we're talking about first goes all the way back to 1956 through 1958. 2 of the biggest TV shows on television were 21 and the $64,000 question.
Contestants were alleged to have been given answers before the filming of the episode. Part of the draw of a game show is you want to believe that it's fair. You want to believe that if you were on there, you would have a chance at winning the same kind of money that these contestants that you've come to love are winning. And to find out that it wasn't all on the up and up was devastating.
In the case of 21, the host of the show was a guy named Jack Barry. Jack Barry would be blackballed from television for over a decade after this because he was not only the show host, he was also the producer of the show, and he was directly involved in what happened. So how did this all go down? Well, the contestant on the show was a guy named Herbert Stemple, and he was a guy going to school on the GI Bill. He won for 8 consecutive weeks. This was a weekly TV show, and he won for 8 weeks. The sponsor of 21 was a company called Geritol. Now, for those of us of a certain age, if you know, you know. For those of you who are amongst the great unwashed, Geritol was a product. Well, it was a tonic. It was designed to rev up what they called tired blood.
Right.
Do you have iron blood? And Geritol basically was hooch with iron added to it. It was 12% alcohol, so you could get yourself,
I guess so,
a good buzz off that. There's, bottles of wine don't have 12%. So it was 12% alcohol with an infusion of iron.
Yum.
And back in those days, we should point out, in the 1950s, if you had a TV show, let's say a game show, Geritol or Revlon, or could have been anybody, they were the only sponsor. It wasn't like TV shows today. Let's say you're watching Price is Right. You're going to see all different commercials during that 1 hour for all different companies, all different products. But back in the 50s, you had one sponsor.
Right.
That was something that was brought over from the radio days.
Right. They would say at the end of the show, or at the beginning of the show, brought to you by Geritol.
Right.
And that was it.
And you see the podium that Jack Barry is standing at says Geritol on it. So the sponsor basically owned the show. They had an input on everything regarding that show, who the host was, who the talent was, who the contestants.
Did they provide the prize money too?
Yeah. The whole thing was based on Geritol. So when this guy Stemple was on for 8 weeks, Geritol started to see that their sales were declining. And they were blaming it on Stemple. And they went to the production team of 21 and they said, listen, our sales of Geritol are down. And this guy Stemple, he's pulling us down head first. People are tired of looking at him. Find a way to get rid of him. Now, Stemple was given the answers all along for 8 weeks. They're feeding this guy the right answers. And the deception on this was so deep. Not only was there deception in the question and answer part of the show, but the whole production of the show was manipulated. Stemple was not as bad looking a guy as he appeared on television. They deliberately gave him a bad haircut. They deliberately dressed him in clothes that didn't fit and were out of style to make him look bad. And so he became like a culture hero for 8 weeks. And they're feeding him the right answers all along the way. You get to 8 weeks and Geritol says, get rid of this guy. So the producers find a guy who was a handsome, erudite college professor from Columbia University with a very patrician family background named Charles Van Doren.
It even sounds cultured.
It does, right? You know? Van Doren made it to the cover of Time magazine. And minutes before they started taping Stempel's last episode, one of the producers of 21 sits down in the dressing room with Herb Stempel and says, you're going to lose tonight. You're going to take a dive. And Stempel protested, and they said, no, you're off the show. You're taking a dive tonight. If you take the dive for us, we'll get you a job at the network. You'll have a regular job that we're going to take care of you. We're going to ask you a question about the movie Marty, which he saw 3 times. It was his favorite movie. It was Stempel's favorite movie.
It'd be like asking me about the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, asking me about Citizen Kane. So they said, you're going to take a dive, and it's going to be about the movie Marty. And you're going to give the answer on the waterfront. We'll take care of you. So they bring Stempel on and Van Doren, and they ask Stempel about the movie, and Stempel looks right into, and they coached him. Right. They said, you would go into an isolation booth. Mm-hmm. Each contestant was in an isolation booth. And what they would do to manipulate the show further was they would turn off the air conditioning.
Sneaky. In
the isolation booth. So now you're sweating. And the producers would coach you and say, now look, you're going to look at the camera and you're going to look nervous, right? And when they ask you the question, you say nothing for 5 seconds. You pause and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you bite your lip, right? Like you're nervous, like you're thinking. You scrunch your face up a little bit. You stutter when you're given the answer. Breathe heavy, because like you're scared, right? So they're really, it's like a movie director coaching Ingrid Bergman.
It's like an actor playing the part.
Playing a part, which is what these poor guys were at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So Stempel takes the fall, gives the wrong answer. Charles Van Doren is now the new champ. As soon as Stempel walked off the stage, Jack Barry et al. Totally reneged on everything that they promised Mr. Stempel. He would call them, they wouldn't take his calls, treated this guy like crap after he took a fall for them, for their show. And obviously, his nose was a little bit out of joint.
I'd have a bit of an issue. I mean, after all, put yourself in his place. It's your reputation. People are thinking you're smart, you're a genius, you've got all this fame and notoriety. You're promised a lifelong career, job security, money up the wazoo, just for giving one wrong answer. What would you do?
Yeah, I think Stempel had won at the end of his reign. He was up around $69,000 in total. So, in the 1950s, right, that's a lot of schkaro.
It is. So after all that gets negated, what recourse does he have? Yeah. He's going to blow the whistle on them, and like anybody, I think, would. Don't make him out to be the bad guy.
He went to the press, and he sang like a little birdie.
And because of that, it went all the way to Congress.
Yes.
To look at regulating the game show industry. There were hearings, and eventually enacted legislation to make it against the law to provide outcomes.
It ruined Charles Van Doren's career. He was fired at Columbia University because he also admitted during the hearings that, yes, I was coached. Yes, I knew the answers. Yes, I lied to the American people. Van Doren really lived out the rest of his days in relative obscurity.
It's a shame. It's a real shame.
Jack Barry was banned from television. He was blacklisted. Anybody having anything to do with 21 or the $64,000 question, which also turned out to be rigged, it ruined the career of its host, Hal March. And Jack Barry went to Canada, became a TV producer up there producing game shows, because Canada wasn't mad at him.
Yeah.
And he managed to claw his way back into the industry with a show called The Joker is Wild, which is very successful. But Jack Barry, recovered from the scandal, but certainly there always will be the asterisk next to his name, like the guy behind 21.
So how did this scandal affect the industry? For about a decade, game shows were verboten. But people really liked them.
They liked them.
They wanted to see
it's
them.
It's just that the networks were terrified, and rightly so.
You have Merv Griffin, who we all have heard of now.
Who doesn't love Merv Griffin? Come on.
He was in a conversation with his wife, Julianne, and he was saying how frustrated he was, that he would love the game shows to be able to come back, but he was getting too much backlash from the scandals. So,
which we should point out, Merv was not involved in any of the scandals.
No, absolutely not. But he wanted to bring them back, and the networks weren't having it. So his wife says, "Well, what about if instead of the scandal was that they were given the answers, what if we give the answers and they have to come up with the question?" And thus became the quiz show Jeopardy.
Apparently, the original title for Jeopardy was called "What's the Question?"
And that wasn't jazzy enough. And one of the producers says, "It doesn't have enough Jeopardies in it." And Merv liked the idea and changed the name to Jeopardy.
Right, which made its debut on the NBC television network on March 30th, 1964. And it was hosted by
Art Fleming.
Art Fleming.
So polite.
"Won't you watch this with us now? Thank you." Remember, they do the commercial.
Yes.
"Won't you watch this with us now? Thank you."
And that ran until 1975, so it ran a good decade. And the clues are given as answers, and the contestants have to phrase their answer
as a
question. So there were dollar amounts in different categories, and I think we're all pretty much familiar with the Jeopardy format. And it became very successful. It beat a lot of shows, even the variety shows, in the ratings. And it went away for a little while, and then it came back in 78 and 79.
Right.
And then again in 84.
With the great Alex Trebek.
And at that point, they introduced things like Daily Double and Final Jeopardy. But at any rate, they made little changes along the way to make it a little bit more exciting, a little more visual, and it became a cultural staple. Unfortunately, Alex Trebek succumbed to cancer, and when he passed, they wanted to continue the show. And they did something, this is probably the only, I wouldn't call it a scandal, but a negative press.
It was just stupid.
It was like a negative thing.
We're talking about what producer Michael Richards did.
He paraded a series of about, I think there
were about 10.
About 10 different possible hosts. And over the, a few months of airing shows, he rotated these hosts through to see how they would fly.
Right. Each one did a week's worth of Jeopardies, right?
Well, some only did a couple of days, depending on what their availability was. Okay. And I think some were more serious contenders than others.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Katie Couric really was in a serious consideration.
No,
she did like 2 shows.
For giggles.
Yeah. But at any rate, they did this parade. And eventually, Ken Jennings,
I don't even
longtime
know.
Jeopardy champion.
I don't know
became the
why
host.
they had to have this dog and pony show, because for the real diehard Jeopardy fans,
Right.
everybody was like, give it to Jennings.
Yeah.
He's a legend.
I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at that time, Jennings was doing the Chase or Masterminds or something, and he wasn't free. And it was going to be like a 2-month, 8-week hiatus before he could come on and host Jeopardy.
And then after the dog and pony show, Mike Richards decides, because he was the executive producer of Jeopardy. So, what the executive producer says is kind of what goes. And Mike Richards decided, well, you know what? I don't think I'm going to use any of these people that I just trotted out for the last several weeks. I'm going to be the host. So he takes over the show. Talk about being a chooch. He takes over the show, and then he winds up appearing on somebody's podcast and made some sexist comments, apparently. And Sony, who owns Jeopardy, got word of it, and they were like, and you're out of here.
Yeah.
Enter, of course, Ken
By that
Jennings
time, Ken was available.
And Mayim Bialik.
Right.
Did anybody like her as a host? I really didn't like her hosting it.
A lot of people did. When you look online on the Jeopardy boards and things, she had enough fans.
Yeah, I always thought that
personally
she
didn't
felt
like it.
ill at ease. She always appeared to be ill. She's great on a sitcom when you're reading the lines that you've
Right.
memorized. But hosting the show, I just always felt that she was ill at ease. And apparently, we've heard from some sources that she was difficult to work with and required a lot of editing post-production
Right.
to take out her mistakes and her fumbles.
Well, thank God Jeopardy came back, revived the quiz show, revived the game show. But those were not the only scandals. Other game shows had other scandals. The Price is Right, fraught with scandals, unfortunately.
Yeah.
More in the Bob Barker years. Behind the scenes, it was a workplace nightmare. The Barker's beauties, the models that showed the different products, one was dismissed for gaining too much weight. Another one, Bob himself was having an affair with, allegedly.
Right.
Another one took off during a pregnancy leave, and when she returned, they didn't renew her contract.
Another he made disparaging comments about because she was black.
Right. So all these kind of things are poured into the background of The Price is Right, and it's amazing that the show has survived.
Barker was, and I know that he's probably up there on what I call the Mount Rushmore of game show hosts, but he really wasn't the nicest guy.
It would appear so, yeah.
It appears that he was much better relating to dogs and cats than relating to the people that had to work for him or under him, if you know what I'm saying.
Now, another scandal involved the dating game. Now, in 1978, there was the dating game format, as you know, would have like one person was looking for a date, and there would be 3 bachelors or 3 bachelorettes.
And here they are.
And they were unseen to the contestant. And the 3, in this case, bachelors, would be behind the screen, and they would answer questions.
Right. Bachelorette number 1, what is your your idea of an exciting night out?
So that was the format. That's how the game worked.
Yeah.
Well, in 1978, we had one of the eligible bachelors was this guy, Rodney Alcala. And it turned out he was convicted of molesting a child and was suspected in multiple murders. And the episode, which aired before his conviction, was linked to the capture of Alcala. When people saw him on there, that's the guy, I know this guy. And he was convicted of multiple killings. He died in 2021 while on death row.
Holy crap.
But can you imagine being fixed
Fixing
up with
him
a
up with
mass murderer.
That could have been a really, really bad outcome.
Right. So look, I'm not sure how.
How about a date with Ted Bundy? Does that sound like a good idea? Remember the Pressure Luck scandal?
That was amazing. In 1984, there was this contestant, Michael Larson. He won $110,237 on Press Your Luck.
He was an ice cream truck driver.
Somehow he studied for months and months and months the show. He watched it. He reviewed it. Videotaped it.
Looked at it over and over and over and over.
And he discovered something very interesting. It wasn't random. The pattern of how the lights go on the screen through the whammies and through the prizes was a set pattern. But once you knew them, they never varied. So he could watch it, and he saw which one it was, and he knew exactly
when to say stop.
And he took them for over $100,000.
$110,237.
Exactly.
And Peter Tamarkin told the story. They did a special on, I think, Game Show Network with Peter Tamarkin, the late Peter Tamarkin.
Who was the host of the show
was
at the
the host.
time.
And he said it was absolutely terrifying. And if you watch Larson, he's scary because he's looking at the camera and he's winning and he's like, stop. And he's winning every single time, just round after round after round. And Tamarkin said there was absolute panic up in the control room because the producers are like,
he's going to bankrupt us.
Oh my God, he figured it out. What do we do? And they're like, you can't do anything.
Right.
You can't. It was not a crime for the guy to have figured out the pattern of the show. Shame on you for making it so simple. And they even took him to court.
Well, again, the legislation that was passed to regulate the quiz shows, the Press Your Luck people couldn't do anything. He didn't do anything illegal.
No, didn't do anything illegal. And they took him to court to try to get it overturned where they wouldn't have to pay the money. And the court ruled in his favor.
Right.
Be that as it may, Michael Larson died broke. In spite of all his winnings, he died broke.
Often happens that way, unfortunately. But
if you can find that video on YouTube,
it's worth
take
watching.
a look at it. It's 1984, Michael Larson on Pressure Luck. And I wonder if they're insured for that.
I don't know. I would think nowadays they would be. But I don't know if they were back then because nobody thought that would happen. Nobody foresaw it.
Now, Pressure Luck is still on the air.
Right. They have different hosts.
Different board. The show concept is the same, beating the whammies, but it is all digital now, and there are millions of combinations that can be done on the board.
It would be impossible to do that.
Pretty much impossible for somebody to figure it out today.
And, all of these scandals, they show you what game shows, well, most of the time they were very wholesome family entertainment, but they have been marred by some of these unethical, shady practices, dangerous contestant backgrounds, toxic work environments, all kinds of things.
So this is the end of part 1 of a 2-show series. Maureen, what are we talking about on our next edition?
Our next edition, we're talking about the game show successes and what made them so and why we like them.
You take a show like Jeopardy or Wheel, and they've been on for decades, and you have hosts on these shows that are on for decades. What makes that happen versus the show that comes on and it lasts a season, sometimes half a season, and then they're gone and forgotten? What does it take to make that magic? We'll be talking about that on next week's show. Remember, we launch the show on YouTube every Thursday morning. It's up and ready for you at 9 o'clock. Before we go, please give us a like and subscribe. It helps us reach an even bigger audience. So until next week, I'm still Pete.
And I'm still Maureen.
So long, and thanks for watching, and thanks for listening.